I'd been in a passionate 4-year relationship with the heir of a wealthy family. Suddenly, he posted a tweet. "I'm ready to settle down tonight. I'm proposing." Unable to hide my excitement, I wore his favorite white dress to the event, only to witness him on one knee before another girl. That girl asked who I was. Her? Just a poor student I sponsor. He said, "Date her? Don't be ridiculous. We're from completely different worlds." Chapter 01. When I pushed open the private room door, Jeremy was still on one knee, holding up a massive diamond ring to a girl. She was wearing the exact same high-end limited edition dress as mine, but because she was slender and frail, she couldn't really pull it off. She didn't have my curves. Many of the onlookers turned to me in astonishment. The girl jutted her chin unhappily. "Jeremy, who is she?" Jeremy hurriedly took her hand. "Oh, her? She's just a poor student I've been sponsoring." Someone nearby piped up. "Could she be your secret girlfriend?" "Girlfriend? Don't make me laugh." He sneered. "We're from different worlds. My mother would have my hide." "I heard Jeremy has been hiding a lover for 4 years. The girl said, "Now that you're proposing to me, you'd better cut off any outsiders." "I find it disgusting." Jeremy glared at me with disdain in his eyes. "Why are you here?" That was when I remembered why I had come in the first place. A mutual friend had sent me a screenshot of Jeremy's tweet about his proposal tonight. Apparently, it was blocked from my view. Everyone assumed he was planning to surprise me. So I dressed up in the gown he gave me, put on gorgeous makeup, and prepared an even bigger surprise for him. I was going to propose to him first. But even I'm not so self-absorbed as to miss the obvious. Tonight's fiancé wasn't me. Jeremy remained on one knee. I stepped forward gracefully, shoving a large bouquet of sunflowers into his arms. "I heard you were proposing, so I came to offer my congratulations." My pale, slender fingers plucked open the pocket on his chest, slipping a card inside. "Here's the money I owe you, Jeremy. Maybe use it to see a specialist about your bad breath. Wouldn't want you to have a kid who's both ugly and foul-mouthed." That girl, furious, tried to slap me, but I sidestepped her easily, glancing disapprovingly at her flat chest. I muttered, "Tisk. TSK. Are you sure Jeremy didn't make you wear that dress just to embarrass you in front of everyone?" I struck a seductive, graceful pose, flashing a charming smile. Her gaze fell on my ample chest, and she went ballistic. "Jeremy, didn't you say there were only 2 of these dresses in the whole country?" I covered my mouth with a light laugh and tapped a slender finger in the air. "Yes, 2 dresses, one for you and one for me. That's exactly 2, right?" Her face turned green, and she slapped Jeremy hard across the face. Jeremy lost his balance and fell on his face. Chaos broke out in the private room. I waved goodbye and left without a trace, as if I hadn't a care in the world. But once I was far enough away, certain no one could see me, I plopped down on the curb and cried like an idiot. Yes, Jeremy really had sponsored me, but we'd genuinely been a couple for 4 years. Because of our huge social gap, I didn't want anyone thinking I was just after his money, so very few people knew about us. I never imagined it would become the perfect excuse for him to cheat. My 4 years of youth, completely wasted, and I'd even dressed to the nines tonight to propose to him. Just thinking about it made me want to die of embarrassment. I was sobbing so hard that I was gasping for air when my boss suddenly called. Peter's low voice came through. "Autumn, I need you to come to the office right now. My assistant Lou is out of town, and I need some documents first thing tomorrow morning." I glanced at my phone, my voice thick with tears. "Boss, it's already past 8. Sorry, it's urgent." He paused for a moment. "Have you been crying?" I hiccuped from crying. "I haven't been crying. I'll be there soon. As a wage slave, I have no right to wallow in heartbreak." Quickly wiping my tears, I flagged down a cab. I'd been hired as Peter's secretary right after graduation. He's a total workaholic, which means I've had to keep up with his pace. But he's also generous, which helped me save up quite a bit in just a year. Tonight, I had planned to return all of Jeremy's money and begin a relationship of true equality with him from now on. That wave of bitterness rose up again, and I couldn't stop myself from sobbing softly once more. Chapter 02. I had just settled into my workstation when Peter emerged from his office. He's the type who rarely cracks a smile, dressed in a perfectly pressed black suit, tie neatly knotted. His deep-set eyes regarded me coolly. though they flicked away hastily when they landed on my chest. That was when I realized he had a full view from his angle. This dress was much too revealing. Its neckline far too low, completely against his standards for a secretary's attire. Feeling uneasy, I crossed my arms over my chest. "I'm sorry, boss. I didn't have time to change. It won't happen again." Expressionless, he nodded and handed me a file. "Finish this, and then you can go home." With that, he turned away. The invisible pressure he always exuded finally eased. By the time I was done, it was already past 10. Peter checked over my work for mistakes, then stood up. His long fingers fastened the bottom button of his jacket, quietly elegant, and with a certain aloof nobility. Jeremy had once told me that the Wong family is one of the top families in the elite circles, so prestigious that even his own Fu family can barely keep up. He used to say I'd lucked out in a ridiculous way, scoring a job in Peter Wong's office right after graduating. "Let's go. I'll take you home," Peter said. I was about to agree when a sudden wave of dizziness hit me, my mind going blank. Before I could hit the floor, a large hand caught me around the waist. I woke up in the hospital with an 4 drip in my hand. Peter was dozing nearby, his elbow propped up. His bone structure was striking, his features deep and defined under the stark fluorescent lights. His handsome face carried an almost ascetic air. Though I'd been by his side for a year, this was the first time I dared to study him so closely. His long lashes trembled, and he opened his eyes, a pair of ink-black irises meeting mine. Startled, I squeezed mine shut. "It's low blood sugar," he said quietly. "I'm sorry for keeping you at work so late. It's not your fault. I forgot to eat." I mumbled, feeling embarrassed. Making my boss take me to the hospital, talk about a cringeworthy situation. The doctor prescribed glucose and told me to drink some whenever I felt dizzy. Peter listened closely, then picked up the bag of glucose. On our way out of the ER, he shrugged off his suit jacket. "It's getting chilly. Put this on." A quick glance reminded me of my low neckline, so I obediently slipped on his jacket. "I'm just going to check in with a friend here. Come with me," he said. "Oh, okay." I followed behind him like a timid quail. His friend was in the obstetrics and gynecology department on the 8th floor, a lively, outgoing person. So unlike Peter. His flirtatious eyes darted between the two of us as he teased. "Wow, not bad. Man, lucky you." Peter gave him a light punch. "Cut it out. She has a boyfriend. Let's go." We got into the elevator together, and the person I least wanted to see stepped in, Jeremy's sister, Laura. Jeremy's family had always been the biggest opponents of our relationship, so Lara's disapproving glare now focused on Peter's jacket draped over my shoulders. She glanced at the elevator panel and shrieked, "Autumn, what are you doing at the OBGYN in the middle of the night with some random guy? Are you cheating on my brother with another man? Are you really that cheap, anyone who pays can have you? My brother still treats you like a treasure. I'm going to let him know so he can dump you already." Peter's brow furrowed, about to say something, but I lightly tugged on his sleeve, sliding my hand along his arm. I clung to him with feigned sweetness. "You think I'm with someone else? Well, maybe that's because your brother can't keep me satisfied. Go tell Jeremy to head over to the wholesale market by the south gate. I've saved a dozen horns for him. That way, once your family goes bankrupt, the two of you can set up a stall to sell them." The elevator arrived at the first floor. "Don't thank me too much. I'm always generous to my exes." I sashayed out, still leaning on Peter. Laura stamped her foot in fury but couldn't do a thing about it. Chapter 03. I didn't let go of Peter's arm until we reached the car. Apologetically, I said in a small voice, "I'm sorry, boss. I got so angry just now. I didn't mean to take advantage of you." Peter glanced at his wrinkled shirt sleeve, then spoke in a low voice. "It's fine." His calm, composed manner didn't seem any different from usual, so I breathed a sigh of relief. Halfway home, Jeremy's calls came flooding in. The moment I picked up, he began yelling, "Autumn, who the hell is that man with you? You're pregnant with his child? So all that innocent act before was just for show? Autumn, answer me. If you dare cheat on me, I swear I'll." I let out a bitter laugh. "Jeremy, how typical of you to have a double standard. You can cheat and have your fun, but I'm not allowed a little excitement of my own? We're not living in feudal times anymore. Looks like you need treatment for more than just your foul mouth. You should probably open up your skull and clean out whatever filth is inside." Then I ended the call and blocked him outright. Peter gave me a sidelong look and remarked in an even tone, "You've got quite the sharp tongue." I hunched my shoulders, my face burning. As we pulled into my apartment complex, I saw Jeremy pacing by my building from a distance. I bit my lip and glanced at Peter pleadingly. "Boss, could you maybe?" He sighed. "Fine, I'll walk you up." "Thank you, boss. I promise I'll work extra hard from now on." Peter helped straighten his suit jacket around me, then slipped an arm around my shoulders to shield me. He was so tall that when he stood in front of me, I looked like a tiny chick peeking out from behind him. Jeremy charged toward us, cursing under his breath. "Autumn, how dare you bring another man home? Do you have no shame? Let's see who has the guts to steal my woman, Wang, Chairman Wang." At the sight of Peter, Jeremy's bravado vanished. His pointed finger trembled and finally dropped back down. Peter inclined his head slightly. "That's me." Suddenly, Jeremy heaved a sigh of relief. "Oh, if it's you, then I'm not worried. Someone of your status couldn't possibly be interested in someone like Autumn." Peter's brows creased. "And what do you mean by someone like her?" "Oh, you don't know?" Jeremy sneered. "She's an orphan, raised in a welfare home, not at all like someone from a normal family. My family absolutely refused to let me date her. So come on, with your background, the idea that something's going on between you two is impossible. I'd never believe it." He spoke with a mocking tone, a smugness radiating in his eyes. Anger boiled in my veins. I couldn't believe the man I'd loved for 4 years could look down on me like this. I was well aware of the gulf between our social statuses, but I'd let his sweet words blind me into thinking our love could transcend the gap, that we at least respected each other. Clearly, I'd been a fool. My chest heaved, and I was ready to lunge at him when Peter held me back, pulling me against him. His expression turned grim, a cool severity flashing in his usually reserved gaze. "Jeremy, it's best to end things cleanly. Slandering your ex after a breakup is hardly classy." With that, he didn't bother sparing Jeremy another glance and escorted me upstairs. Jeremy stood by the doorway, refusing to leave. Inside, Peter sat on my pink sofa, crossing his legs. It was such a mismatched sight, but it did nothing to diminish his imposing presence. Though only 30, he carried himself with a certain regal air, the quiet dignity of someone who commanded attention. I washed a plate of grapes to serve him. He popped one into his mouth, then frowned, sour. He ate no more, with no other fruit to offer. I felt awkward. He simply took out his phone to check the stock market, and we fell into an uneasy silence. Outside, Jeremy kept knocking, shouting, "Chairman Wang, it's late. You should probably head home." Peter slid his phone into his pocket and stood up, panicking. I threw my arms around his waist from behind. He stiffened at once, pressing my cheek against his broad back. I murmured, "You can't leave." Peter gently tried to pry my hands away, but I simply guided his hand down to the lowest edge of my neckline. "Don't you want a taste?" His voice came out rough. A taste of what? Me. Jeremy's knocking grew more frantic, each rap echoing like the pounding of my heart. "I'm very sweet. You'll know with just one taste." Chapter 04. I stood on my tiptoes, tilting my head up. He was so tall that I still couldn't reach him. My lips only brushed lightly against his Adam's apple. His body went rigid, and I heard him swallow. That Adam's apple moving up and down. Still not close enough. I grabbed hold of his tie and pulled him down until at last my lips met his. His mouth was cool, just the right fullness, and felt wonderful to the touch. Gently, I traced the shape of his lips. That intimate, teasing distance between us. Peter's breathing grew rough. Suddenly he leaned back, putting space between us, despite the desire in his eyes. His words were calm and measured. "So you're just using me to get under his skin?" My eyes brimmed with tears. "I'm hurting inside, and doing this will stop the hurt. I want to see if it helps." A single tear rolled down my cheek. In truth, I didn't know if it would ease the pain. I just wanted to break free from all my usual restraints. To be reckless for once. All my life, I've been bound by a strong sense of right and wrong, holding myself to the model of a good girl, always following the rules. But now, I loathed my own rigidity. I wanted to be the bad girl for once. At least that way. Maybe I wouldn't be the one getting hurt. A complicated emotion flickered in Peter's eyes. But before I could read it, he bowed his head and kissed me. His kiss was like him, silent, yet tender. He skimmed across my eyes, my cheeks, the bridge of my nose, finally coming to rest on my lips, which had been waiting so long for his. Outside, Jeremy was pounding on the door, shouting, "Autumn, open up! Don't make me angry." Peter pressed his forehead to mine, his breath hot and tinged with the faint sweetness of grapes. "If we stop now, there's still time." In defiance, I slipped my hand inside his white shirt. Peter's pupils contracted, his dark gaze turning almost dangerous. Suddenly the world spun. He tossed me onto the bed. From outside came the sound of Jeremy's voice, growing desperate. "Autumn, open the door. Let's talk this out. I don't love her at all. Tonight was just for show." Peter pinned my wrists above my head, those long, intense eyes locking onto me. "Autumn, who am I?" "Peter, you're Peter." I arched my body, straining to feel his warmth, like long dormant magma finally bursting through the surface. My last shreds of self-restraint collapsed in an instant. Peter lost control, too, when the pent-up desire at last broke free. I cried out in pain. On the other side of the door, Jeremy's strength seemed to drain away. He slumped against it, tears streaming down his face, his voice hoarse with sobs. "Autumn, I beg you, stop torturing me. You can't do this to me." Peter paused, staring down at me, unfamiliar emotions swirling in his eyes. After a long moment, he spoke in a low voice. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was your first time." I didn't appreciate his distraction. My arms, weak as noodles, pulled him back down. I whispered, "I guess I'm not so sad anymore." Peter's breathing, already strained, turned ragged again, and there was even a hint of a smile curling his lips. That smile was both wild and full of desire. Taking up a lock of my hair between his long fingers, he murmured, "Be good, Autumn. You can feel even better than this." People at the office often whispered that Peter wasn't into women at all. Otherwise, with his family background and top-tier looks, how had he never been seen dating anyone? Honestly, I'd assumed that part of my job as his secretary would be sending gifts to all sorts of actresses, A-list, B-list, all the way down, but that never happened. Peter's private life was cleaner than a monk's. I even wondered if he planned to take monastic vows someday. Now, everything I once thought got turned on its head. Last night, Peter had been like a newly awakened youth discovering carnal pleasures for the first time, tirelessly demanding more. Over and over, the flames of his desire burned through the night. I ended up crying and scratching at him, even kicking him. Patiently, he kept kissing away my tears, his voice low and gentle. "Shoo, Autumn, open your legs." When I finally woke up, the room was dim. A single white ray of sunlight peeked through a gap in the curtains, illuminating the tall man's figure. Peter was at my little coffee table, working. He sat on the floor, his long legs, tightly encased in suit trousers, folded awkwardly around the small table. He liked wearing gold-rimmed glasses when reading documents, which softened the usual intensity in his features, lending him a bit of that refined but dangerous charm. Sensing my gaze, he removed his glasses and looked over, expression warm and even gracing me with a smile. In my time working under him, I'd rarely seen Peter smile. He typically concealed every emotion behind a calm, collected face. Even signing deals worth billions, he'd remain unreadably calm. They say people who seldom smile become especially attractive when they finally do, and that was definitely true of Peter. It would be all too easy to get lost in that smile. Flustered, I pulled the blanket up over my bare shoulders and tried to hide inside it. I forced a casual remark. "Didn't you have a meeting this morning?" My throat came out scratchy, and hearing my own voice brought back flashes of last night, being told to cry out over and over, the scene replaying in my head until my face turned scorching red. Peter rose from the floor, so tall that he almost seemed to reach the ceiling. He poured me a glass of water and sat on the edge of the bed. I already went and came back, clearly in a good mood. He placed a hand against my back to help me sit up. His warm, dry palm pressed right onto my bare skin, leaving me covered in goosebumps. I huddled beneath the covers and tried to sit upright, awkwardly muttering, I can manage on my own, but after last night, my body was so exhausted that I almost collapsed against him again. Chapter 05. He held the water to my lips, and I sipped with my head lowered, letting him support the glass. Does it still hurt? He asked suddenly. I nearly choked on my water. He patted my back gently, a soft chuckle rumbling in his throat. Why so shy? Right after speaking, he pressed a warm kiss behind my ear. Heat radiated from that kiss, leaving my heart pounding as it spread across my skin. Autumn, he whispered. I tried to scoot forward, to move away. He caught my chin with one hand, his deep voice leaving no room for resistance. Don't dodge. It's ugly there, I muttered. A scar marred the skin behind my ear. I've always hated people seeing it. It's beautiful, he insisted. You're beautiful everywhere. His voice was low and seductive, enough to make anyone tremble. Do you want more water? I shook my head. He set the glass aside. Then focus on me. All of a sudden, he bit my earlobe, murmuring, "Why don't you take it off?" My face burned uncontrollably, both from shyness and embarrassment. I knew exactly what he meant. If I take it off, I won't be able to hear, I said, biting my lip. He pulled me into his arms, pressing my face against his chest. His heartbeat thundered, loud and powerful. Autumn. It's okay. You don't need to hear. Your body will feel everything. He coaxed me in a soft, hypnotic tone. Under that irresistible persuasion, I obeyed and removed my cochlear implant. Yes, I have a hearing disability, and this was my first time removing the implant in front of someone else, especially in a moment like this. Fear and a sliver of anticipation warred inside me. Peter was even more passionate than he'd been the night before, almost like an eager boy desperate to please the girl he adored. I felt so overwhelmed. I bit down on my hand to stifle my cries. He wouldn't allow it, though. He pried my hand away and put it on his broad shoulder, forcing me to face him with tears streaming down my cheeks. He spoke, and through my blurry vision, I could make out his words by reading his lips. Autumn. Be good. Let it all out. Unable to hold back, I gave in to my most honest reaction, crying and biting him. On that mountaintop that seemed to reach the sky, he kissed me, his expression tender, focused, almost reverent. His lips moved softly, shaping my name over and over. Autumn, autumn. Not until I was about to pass out again did he finally relent. Peter, I have low blood sugar, I grumbled petulantly. He began setting out a lavish meal on the table, dish by dish. Otherwise, you think I'd have let you off so easily? You leck, I muttered. Peter, were you deprived in a past life or something? He paused, thinking it over with an air of seriousness, then replied earnestly, who knows about my past life? As for this life, whether I've had any woman, shouldn't you know best? Indeed, no one knew Peter's personal life better than I did. I was the only female employee in his secretarial department, and he seemed allergic to women, especially those who tried to throw themselves at him. He always buttoned his shirt all the way up, wore a perpetually stern expression, and never showed interest in anyone. Of course, that only made women more infatuated with him, so maybe I really did luck out. He's got a great body, endless stamina, but I couldn't dwell on that thought. My back started to hurt the moment I remembered it. How about him? I asked casually, changing the subject. Jeremy's tantrums had gone quiet for a while. I wondered if he'd ended up buried in some ditch. He's been dragged back by his family and locked away, Peter replied. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Autumn, you know I have a strict policy against office romances. Given our current relationship, it might not be appropriate for you to stay in the secretarial department. Right, I said, nodding like it was no big deal. I'll hand you my resignation today. You want to quit? His eyes went cold as he studied me. Isn't that what you're getting at? To be honest, from the moment I dragged him into this mess, I'd already made up my mind to relocate, to live somewhere new. I graduated in this city, stumbled into a position at Wong Corporation, a Fortune 500 company, and had a tumultuous but unforgettable relationship. It ended with me sleeping with my boss. All in all, not too shabby, I guess. It was quite the dramatic ride. I only meant to transfer you to another department, Peter clarified, setting his chopsticks down with a decisive clack. His tone was cold enough to sting. Autumn, tell me, what are you really planning? Nothing, I mumbled, staring at my lap, my voice muffled. I'm not planning on clinging to you. You don't have to worry that I'll blab about anything. I'm just a deaf girl. If people found out you slept with me, it'd be embarrassing for you. I'm already embarrassed on your behalf, right? I forced a laugh, trying to appear indifferent. Peter froze, furrowing his handsome brow. Is that really how you think of me? I didn't answer. Autumn, have you ever considered being with me? No, I replied firmly. Don't worry about it. I definitely haven't. I tried to sound as convincing as possible, to show I had no ulterior motives. His gaze flickered, and he let out a faint, bitter laugh. Why not consider me? Am I worse than he is? Chapter 06. How could Peter possibly be inferior to Jeremy? He's accomplished, handsome, self-disciplined, and courteous. Not even 10 Fu families combined could match the wealth of the Wong family. But that's exactly it. Peter is too exceptional. Just standing there, he draws every eye in the room, becoming the sole focus. How could someone like me ever be worthy of him? I'm an orphan, with no parents, on top of that. I'm deaf. If my cochlear implant ever runs out of battery or is switched off, I become a person who can't respond to the outside world at all. Before, I thought Jeremy never went public with our relationship because I asked him not to, but only last night did I realize what a shameful thing it was for him to date me. I'm nothing but a flawed creation, an imperfect figure molded by Nua's asterisk hand. Any courage I once had, the naive thought that love could conquer all obstacles, was completely used up last night. Jeremy Fu was right. If even the Fu family can't accept me, how could the matriarch of the Wong family ever allow me in? Why could he date you? But I can't? Peter persisted, demanding an answer. His lips were pressed into a thin line, dark eyes boring into me, refusing to let me evade. I brushed aside the hair around my ear and forced a carefree smile. Boss, you're older than me by, what, 10 years? I'm not looking for a dad-type boyfriend. We both had a great time last night, right? Don't act like you can't handle it. I've got a killer body. You haven't lost anything here. Be good and take my advice. Don't get involved emotionally with a broke girl like me. In the end, you'll lose everything, down to your underwear. Anger flickered in Peter's eyes. His fists clenched, knuckles whitening. When he next spoke, his usually steady tone held a faint tremor. So that's it? I'm just a tool for you to provoke your boyfriend? You wanted to make him jealous, to show him how little he matters to you. And now that the job's done, I'm supposed to exit the stage. Is that it? I gave him a sweet smile. As expected of you, Mr. Wong. You nailed it in one. Peter nodded, said nothing further, then snatched up his suit jacket from the sofa and headed for the door. His tall, upright figure somehow radiated a deep loneliness. Just before leaving, he said, impassive, stay until you find a new job. In the meantime, you'll be in the planning department. I didn't even get a chance to say thank you before he closed the door and left with determined steps. Thank you, Peter, I whispered softly. In truth, I didn't know where else I could go, or what sort of work I could even do. After all, in today's workplace, someone with my disability faces endless discrimination. Working in the planning department showed me what the real world can be like. There, everyone was on guard against each other, suspicious of one another, and wasted hours each day in toxic office politics. At first, they treated me politely, thinking I was one of Peter's trusted subordinates. But the moment they realized I'd actually been exiled there for annoying him, their attitudes grew snide. I tried to learn. Miranda, what does this set of data represent? She feigned wide-eyed shock. Autumn, didn't you used to be the CEO's secretary? How can you not know something so basic? A male colleague chimed in to help. It's normal for Autumn to be clueless. She wasn't formally trained for this. I started to express my gratitude, but then he leaned in, arm draped over my shoulder, breath offensive as he asked casually, Hey, Autumn, how'd you break into the CEO's office in the first place? Ever since Mr. Wong took over, he's never hired a female secretary. And let's be honest, your degree isn't exactly stellar and you're also. He pointed at the external part of my cochlear implant. I stepped back, trying to escape the stench of his breath. Refusing to answer, I quietly gathered my files, ready to walk away. Miranda let out a derisive snort. What else could it be? Didn't you notice? Then she deliberately thrust out her chest in a lewd, exaggerated way. Everyone burst into boisterous laughter. I sat down at my workstation, tears silently rolling down my cheeks. So this was the real face of the workplace. Chapter 07. Before, whenever I didn't understand something, I'd just knock on the CEO's office door and ask Peter directly. He was so busy, yet he always gave concise, helpful answers, never ridiculing me or brushing me off, never taking advantage of the situation. I'd naively believed the entire company was built on that same principle of supporting each other. Honestly, I still don't know what I did to catch Peter's eye in the first place. Look at Lou, his assistant. He's got a PhD from Harvard. The other secretaries mostly graduated from top-tier universities, many of them with international backgrounds. Me? I went to a mediocre college and I'm hard of hearing. Maybe Peter pitied me, but then again, that doesn't seem right. There are plenty of people in need of help. Yet he didn't go around rescuing everyone. In the entire Wong Corporation building, I'm the only disabled person. Oh, I think I get it now. The realization came like a sudden flash of insight. I'm so unpresentable that Peter felt safe keeping me by his side. He must have assumed I wouldn't dare develop any designs on him because, in his mind, I had no chance, so he never worried about me. Normally, finally understanding something that had puzzled me would bring relief. Strangely, though, I felt a dull ache in my chest. Jeremy reappeared just when I was most weighed down by that feeling. He blocked my path as I was leaving work. Voice low and sinister. Autumn, I really underestimated you. I was already fuming with frustration and needed an outlet. Perfect timing. You underestimated me? That's your own fault. Who told you to look down on people like a snob? You. Jeremy bit down on his words, then exhaled sharply. Forget it. I can't out-argue you. Autumn, I would have come for you ages ago if my mom hadn't locked me up. She only let me out today. That's why I'm here. I've been missing you this whole time. Have you missed me? How could I not? I said with feigned affection. We dated for 4 years. After all, Jeremy's face lit up at my words until I switched tones. That's why every time I pass a funeral home, I think it might be you inside. Seeing you appear so suddenly today, I honestly thought you'd come back from the dead. Jeremy's hands trembled. Autumn, does Peter know you've got such a foul mouth? Sure he does. He was right next to me the other night when I mentioned how inadequate you are. All my bottled up anger was spilling out now, and it felt terrific. Maybe I'd finally stave off those stress-induced breast lumps. Autumn, that proposal wasn't really my idea. My mom forced me into it. That girl's father has a lot of power. He can help our family's business. I have zero feelings for her. But you're still going to marry her, aren't you? Jeremy avoided my eyes, staring off to the side. Then what are you even doing here? Autumn, even if I do marry her, we can still be like we were before. Deep down, I really do care about you. If only your qualifications weren't so lacking, I wouldn't have to marry someone else I don't love. I couldn't believe his nerve. Oh, I see. So after you're married, we keep carrying on in secret, right? Because what we have is true love. So why bother with any formalities? Plus, you'll keep giving me all the money I could ever want. Where else could I score such a sweet deal? Autumn, I'm glad you've come to your senses. Peter's status is way out of your league. He'd never marry you. I'm still your best option. This is perfect. Jeremy grew smug, as though he were about to slap a side chick label on me and graciously hand it over. Smack. Without mercy, I slapped him across the face. You clueless fool. I whirled around and left. Jeremy stood there, stunned, for a good few seconds before shouting after me, rage twisting his features. Autumn, if your coworkers or friends find out you tossed aside the boyfriend who paid for your surgeries and tuition, all because you found someone better, what do you think they'll say about you? I froze mid-step. Of course, he knew me best. He knew exactly where my weak spots lay. Chapter 08. I turned slowly to face Jeremy, hardly believing my ears. Jeremy, you were the one who cheated first, and I've already paid you back everything you spent on me. What more do you want? Autumn, A cochlear implant costs 300,000, and 30,000 15 years ago isn't the same as 30,000 today. Plus there were the speech therapy sessions. If you'd missed the best window, you wouldn't even be able to talk now. Do you think you can ever repay that favor? I staggered back a few steps, feeling as if all my strength had been drained. A boundless sorrow swelled within me. Why hadn't that drunk beaten me to death back then? If someone like me is just going to waste money on treatment, only to be blackmailed into a lifetime of debt, a bitter smile twisted my lips. Jeremy, maybe I should just give you my life. I'm tired of living anyway. Jeremy's eyes widened in shock, panic making him stumble over his words. Autumn. I didn't mean that. I just don't want to lose you. I love you so much, and I want you by my side. Forget it, I said, voice cold and distant, as though life and death were all the same to me now. I'm still alive, right here. If you ever decide to take my life, just say the word. I won't hesitate for even a second. Terrified, Jeremy tried to reach out but froze mid-gesture. I yanked the external part of my implant from my ear and tossed it into the trash. Silence. Anything I might or might not want to hear was now completely gone. Jeremy grew frantic. Cleanliness had always mattered to him, but now he dove toward the garbage bin, ignoring the stench as he rummaged for my implant. I walked off without looking back. He ended up leaving the implant outside my apartment door, but I never picked it up. If he insisted, I might even have cut open the scar behind my ear and dug out the internal piece, just to hand that over. 2. He eventually broke down, sobbing, and pushed a note under my door. Autumn, please. I'm begging you, don't torture yourself like this. I won't force you anymore. It kills me to see you like this. I dumped his note in the trash. Without my implant, I had to rely on gestures or written notes to communicate with people in the planning department. That made them look down on me even more. But somehow I felt oddly calm about it all. It felt like this was the world I really belonged to, the treatment I was supposed to get. Then one morning, everything changed when I arrived at the office. Miranda had been transferred out of town, and the male colleague who'd taken liberties with me was fired. Suddenly, everyone else became polite again, flashing ingratiating smiles, trying to cozy up to me. I wrote a note and stuck it onto my computer screen. Don't pity me. They awkwardly backed off. Close to quitting time, a young new hire handed me a slip of paper. Autumn, nobody's pitying you. Someone from the CEO's office came by today. All the people who gave you trouble got punished. You're under someone's protection, and everyone's envious. I blinked, scribbled a reply. Who was it? Assistant Lou. Nobody will dare speak rudely to you anymore. Lou, Peter's right-hand man, so it must have been Peter who asked him to come. Even after all the awful things I said to Peter, he was still looking out for me. Why is he so good to me? Guilt gnawed at me. I'd never regretted anything I said to Jeremy, no matter how vicious. But every time I thought about how I'd deliberately hurt Peter with my words, I wanted to bury myself in shame. Probably nobody else has ever treated him the way I did. Then the same new hire handed me another note. Autumn, you haven't looked too well lately. Maybe you should see a doctor. She was right. Lately I'd been in terrible shape, no appetite, no energy for anything, forgetting whatever I wanted to do, waking up from nightmares in the middle of the night. Might as well get it checked out. Living well today doesn't really conflict with dying tomorrow, I supposed. Chapter 09. The doctor in front of me wrote on a piece of paper. You're pregnant. Take this test result to OBGYN clinic room no. I've already spoken with Dr. Moo. She looked kindly and was full of concern when she glanced at me. Pregnant? I was actually pregnant? From that one wild night, I now carried Peter's child? I scribbled back. But those 2 days were supposed to be my safe period. I thought I didn't need to take any precautions. The doctor replied, silly girl, a safe period isn't guaranteed. Still dazed, I knocked on the door of OBGYN clinic room ____. Seated behind the desk was the friend Peter had introduced me to that other night. He narrowed his warm, expressive eyes and mouthed, "Oh, it's you." I nodded, then pointed at my ear and waved my hand. He paused, pulling back his playful manner. "You can't hear?" he mouthed. I nodded again, adding a quiet of confirmation. He took the report from my hand and wrote on a notepad, 7 weeks pregnant. Are you planning to keep it? This child belonged to Peter, so of course I couldn't keep it. Never mind the baby, if the matriarch of the Wong family found out, I'd probably lose my life, too. I shook my head and wrote, I'm not keeping it. His expression froze for a moment before he wrote, shouldn't you at least discuss it with your boyfriend first? Again, I shook my head calmly and wrote, no need. He hesitated, then wrote, if you don't plan to keep it, the earlier you have the procedure, the better for your recovery. Let's do it today, I replied. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute and gave a somewhat exasperated smile. It's rare to see someone so calm about this. I'll admit you for the night and schedule the procedure tomorrow. He quickly filled out a hospital admission form and handed it to me. Glancing at it, my eyes caught on his signature. My hands started trembling, studying his handsome face. I shakily wrote, your name is Noah Moo? He looked perplexed by my reaction, then wrote, my mom picked it out. You don't like it? I could change it if it's that bad. I stared at his face, trying to see if there was anything unusual, then wrote, someone's been sending me money since I was little. That person's account name was Noah. Right after writing it, I shook my head, dismissing the thought. It couldn't be him. Jeremy had always claimed to be my benefactor, the one who arranged for my cochlear implant abroad, who got me into rehab therapy, who covered my living expenses and tuition all the way through college. And Jeremy's online handle did match the payer's name, Noah. But something had never felt right. Whenever I brought up the implant, Jeremy seemed clueless and changed the subject. I'd assumed he just didn't want to take all the credit. But it turned out he was never that person at all. Embarrassed, I smiled, crossed out what I'd just written, and replaced it with, probably just a coincidence. Sorry to bother you. I had just stood up when Dr. Noah suddenly pressed me down gently by the shoulder. He wrote quickly, you're that deaf girl named Autumn? He paused, ripped off the note, then wrote again, you grew up in the ___ welfare home, didn't you? So he really did know me. Tears poured down my face. I hunched over, sobbing uncontrollably. For the longest time, Jeremy had claimed he was the one who contacted overseas doctors for my cochlear implant, who arranged my rehab, who wired me monthly living and tuition money until I graduated. His online name matched the sender's, Noah. Yet Jeremy had always seemed oddly unfamiliar with the details of cochlear implants. Whenever I asked, he dodged the topic. I assumed he was just modest. In reality, it was never him. I cried hard, shoulders shaking, like I'd suddenly discovered there was another person in this world who had, in some faint but very real way, been connected to me all along. I had searched fruitlessly for so long, hoping to prove I wasn't rootless. And now, I'd finally found him, like a bird with broken wings finding a home that would never reject or abandon her. I clung to this glimmer of hope. Noah had rescued me from that soundless world, funding me for 15 years. He was my nest of safety. After a long while, I remembered myself and stood, bowing 90 degrees to Noah. Startled, he jumped to his feet in alarm. I mouthed, thank you, I've finally met you. I smiled like an idiot. He waved his hands frantically, and I assumed he was saying no need for thanks. Finally, he scribbled, it wasn't me. I had a card that I loaned out to a friend 15 years ago. It's him who's been sending you the money. My mind went blank. I hurriedly wrote, who's your friend? He replied, you know him, Peter. Chapter 10. 15 years ago, Peter was just 15 himself, having recently lost his father. His mother was struggling to keep the massive Wong Corporation afloat on her own. From that moment on, an enormous weight was placed on Peter's shoulders. He had to step up and take over his mother's burdens as soon as possible. He stopped attending school and was taught by private tutors, cramming academic subjects in the shortest possible time. Afterward, specialized instructors taught him business management. Then he accompanied his mother to one meeting after another, one event after another. Visiting the XX Welfare Home was an annual activity for Wong Corporation's high-level executives. It cost the company relatively little and generated excellent publicity, an investment that paid off many times over. Peter, even at 15, was already tall and strikingly handsome, dressed in a proper suit. He was as elegant as a British prince, radiating a lofty air of wealth and prestige. A few close-up shots of him on TV could double the company's revenues overnight. That day, Peter posed for the cameras while painting with the children, the usual staged bit. Then, on some odd impulse, he wandered into a small classroom. Standing there was a thin, frail girl, repeatedly practicing before a mirror. Huo, puzzled. Peter tapped her on the shoulder. She jumped, startled. "What are you doing?" he asked. The girl tilted her head, smiling sweetly with her pure, clear eyes. She said, Huo, hello? Peter ventured. She kept smiling. Huo, you can't hear? Peter pointed at his ear. The girl nodded serenely. Later, Peter found the head of the orphanage to learn more about her. Autumn? Poor child. She used to be perfectly healthy, until her birth father beat her so badly that she lost her hearing. The director explained. Why is she always repeating Huo? Peter asked. She became deaf after learning how to talk, so she still remembers roughly how to pronounce a few words. But it's been over 3 years. She's lost the ability to speak most of what she once knew. Can't she use hearing aids? They don't work in her case. She needs a cochlear implant. I hear, but that can cost hundreds of thousands. Our orphanage just can't afford it. Hundreds of thousands of yuan was no trivial sum for Wong Corporation at the time. Peter told his mother he wanted to help the girl. His mother rejected the idea without hesitation. Peter, remember your mission. Everything you do must benefit Wong Corporation. Think of your father who passed away. Don't let him rest uneasy. Peter didn't know if his father died with regrets, but he did know one thing. That cat his father used to keep had been hurled off the roof by his mother. It certainly didn't die in peace. So on the surface, Peter acquiesced. In private, he borrowed Noah's name to arrange for the girl's surgery, set her up with speech rehab, and continued sending her money until she finished college. To Peter, Autumn was like that little cat he once cared for, a source of emotional comfort wholly unconnected to business or profit. He knew he was born a businessman, fated to survive and prosper in a treacherous world of scheming and deception. Yet no one ever stopped to consider that behind the businessman, there was a person who also had emotional needs. He asked the director of the orphanage to keep his identity secret, but when Autumn kept begging for a way to contact him, Peter provided a private email address. That email became his secret hideaway, his tree hollow. Through it, Autumn wrote him in meticulous detail about her life. She'd made progress on her speech. She was able to attend regular school. She'd scored surprisingly well on her college entrance exams and gotten into a first-tier school. During her sophomore year, she wrote, "We finally got together. I can finally tell you face to face how I feel, my dearest Noah brother." After that, she fell silent for a long time. Then one day, another note came in. "I'm sorry, Noah brother, you're right here beside me, but I keep feeling this strange sense of distance. Sigh. I shouldn't doubt you. As punishment, I'll treat you twice as nicely." Again, she stopped writing. Close to graduation, she wrote once more. "Job hunting is so hard, especially for someone like me with disabilities. I'm so worn out and lost, I have no idea what tomorrow holds. But here's something funny. Guess what? I've become so fearless I just sent my resume to Wong Corporation for a clerk position. Haha. If anyone found out, they'd laugh me off the face of the earth. Let me laugh at myself for a second first." About half a month later, she wrote again. Triumphant, "Noah brother, I actually got hired by Wong Corporation. Not just that, I'm starting in the CEO's office as a secretary. Is this the 8th wonder of the world? Is your email secretly magical?" Chapter 11. After leaving the hospital, I did 2 things. First, I logged into my mobile banking app to confirm Jeremy still hadn't withdrawn the money I gave him. Moving at lightning speed, I drained all the funds from the account. Then I sent him a blessing message. "You fucking idiot. May you live in poverty and misery, forever longing for love you can't have. Plagued by misfortune, may you be surrounded by admirers yet find no one who truly cares. May someone have to feed you every meal and push you around when you walk. May you linger sick in bed night after night yet somehow live to 100. You've got a house full of kids, but they're all thanks to your buddies. May you be wealthy beyond measure yet never find a cure for your ailments. I hope that where I can't see, you're bruised and battered, that in the dead of winter you find no warmth, And in the peak of summer you're riddled with bed sores. Second, I posted a tweet. My ear feels really uncomfortable. I wonder if I'm about to go deaf again. Jeremy commented instantly. Didn't I pick up your cochlear implant for you? You still can't hear? He added. Autumn, why'd you suddenly curse me out? I couldn't be bothered to reply. I opened Peter's chat window and finally saw the words, the other person is typing. Peter, is it time for another routine tuning? My account, a motherless child is like a weed, replied. The doctor says this old device is about to fail. Peter, didn't they say it would last 70 years? It's only been 15. A motherless child is like a weed. The doctor said there was a problem with the previous surgery. This time, Peter called me directly. Back then, we hired the most authoritative expert from the States. How could there be a problem? Autumn, don't be afraid. I'll contact them right away. Don't panic. Just wait at home. Don't go anywhere. Understand? His voice was fraught with an anxiety I'd never heard before. When I didn't answer, he shouted urgently, Autumn? Can you still hear me? Autumn? My tears fell in silent streams. My lips trembling, I wanted to speak, but I was overwhelmed by a vast, unrelenting pain. I couldn't get a single word out. Autumn? Can you hear me? Peter shouted. I sobbed for a moment, then answered. I can't hear anything anymore. I hung up the phone and buried myself in my blankets, breaking down into heart-wrenching sobs. Peter arrived quickly. He pounded on the door so hard it sounded like he was about to kick it open. I opened the door and saw his bloodshot eyes. My tears that had just subsided welled up again. Peter, I threw myself into his arms, crying. His body went stiff, his hands hovering, unsure where to rest. He had reverted to that self-disciplined, polite CEO of the Wong family business, rather than the Peter who would kiss away my tears whenever I cried and do every wicked thing imaginable. I'm deaf again. Nobody wants me anymore. Boo-hoo, I sobbed pitifully. At last, he placed his hand on my back, softly patting in comfort. His broad shoulders enveloped me, and I pressed my face against his chest, suddenly feeling completely safe. He said, his voice full of concern, Don't say that. Autumn, how could no one want you? As long as you don't mind that I'm getting older, I'll take care of you for the rest of my life. I'll spoil you like my daughter, pamper you like a kitten. But I'm deaf. No man is ever going to love me. I'm doomed to be alone forever. Peter pulled me closer. His voice dropped low, filled with tenderness. I'll love you. I will always love you. I tilted my head up and smacked him lightly. I can't hear what you're saying. Could you please kiss me? Peter pressed his lips together and turned his face aside. See? You're not willing to kiss a deaf woman at all. In the next instant, Peter's kisses rained down in a sudden rush. He kissed my lips, my nose, my eyes, and finally lingered against my ears. I pushed him back toward the bed. He resisted, his expression conflicted. Autumn, last time was already a mistake. We can't keep doing. I shouted. I can't hear you. I'm upset, and only you can make me feel better. Desperately, I tore at his clothes, my hands roaming over him, clumsily teasing, my body pressing closer. Before long, his breathing grew labored. He gritted his teeth and said, You wretched woman, all you do is seduce someone, play with them, and then walk away with no responsibility. He added under his breath, And now you're deaf, which makes you even more unreasonable. Thinking I couldn't hear him, he called me a wretched woman? Furious, I reached out and tried to pry his mouth open. Peter grabbed my hands, then gently guided my fingers into his mouth, kissing them to calm me. I'll give you everything, just be gentle. I eased off, sliding my hand, wet from his mouth, down to his Adam's apple. His entire body tensed. Heat flared from him, his breath scorching, his eyes full of an uncontainable desire he was still trying to suppress. Fine, maybe just let me die of frustration, I said, trying to wriggle free, but in the next second, he flipped me beneath him, finally taking control. His voice came out rough and deep. Autumn, you have no idea how much more frustrated I am. Chapter 12. My bangs were damp with sweat as Peter held me in his arms after our shower, patiently blow-drying my hair. Because I was now unable to hear, he was chattier than usual. Autumn. I guess I owe you in this lifetime. The moment you furrow your brow, my heart aches for half the day. Do you know that I used to worry every day about you being discriminated against at school? Every time I saw news about campus bullying, I'd get cold sweats. Then you started dating, and I worried you'd be taken advantage of by some boy. What if you got hurt? Later on, once you were finally working, I worried you'd face workplace bullying. I arranged for you to work under my watch, personally teaching you, thinking that if something ever happened to me and I couldn't protect you anymore, at least you'd have the skills to stand on your own. Autumn. Am I your dad or something? He huffed, pinching my cheeks. And yet, there was a tender, doting smile tugging at his lips. I feigned innocence, grinning back at him. No, wait, if I really were your dad, then everything would be all wrong, Peter said with a laugh. He tapped my forehead, shaking his head like he was disappointed in me. You said you wouldn't go for those fatherly boyfriend types anymore. Yet here I am, dutifully warming your bed. Autumn, you really are an ungrateful little brat. I glared at him. He beamed radiantly, but the words that came out of his mouth were anything but gentle. What are you staring at? Makes me want to spank your butt until it's black and blue. Was Peter losing it? Still smiling, I snuggled against him, feeling an unprecedented sense of peace. He was lazily running his fingers through my hair when his phone suddenly rang. I noticed the name Noah on the screen and nearly went green with envy. Since I was playing the deaf card, Peter put the call on speaker and tossed the phone onto the table, gathering me into his arms for a kiss. Peter, your little secretary came to see me today. She thought I was the one helping her all these years, so I told her all about your good deeds instead. Peter looked down at me in his arms. I lowered my head, not daring to meet his eyes. When I tried to get up and run, he held me tighter. I really did suspect his arms might be made of iron. His lips left my neck as he calmly asked, if I remember correctly, you're in obstetrics and gynecology, right? That's right. She's pregnant by her boyfriend and came in today, planning to have it terminated. I'd already signed her admission papers, but then she said she wanted to discuss it with her boyfriend first. Pregnant? Peter's eyes flashed with shock. 7 weeks along. Peter cleared his throat. If someone's just gotten pregnant, can they still share a bed? Physically speaking, it's generally not advised for the first 3 months. Why are you asking about your secretary's pregnancy? Wait a minute. Peter, are you into office play? You. Peter hung up the call right away. I wanted to bury my head in my own stomach. His gaze locked on my face, but he said nothing, and the silent pressure nearly suffocated me. My ears really hurt. I whined, clutching them. Aren't you supposed to be deaf? Come on. I'm taking you to the hospital. We'll put in a new implant. His tone was icy. His handsome face was devoid of any expression, but his rigid jawline said it all. He was furious. I threw my arms around his waist, pressing my face against his chest and whimpering, Peter, I'm scared. Don't be mad, okay? Then I looked up at him with dewy eyes, my soft hands wandering over his abs like I was lightly strumming a guitar. Peter clearly wasn't buying it. He gave me no chance to try anything else, forcibly dressing me and hauling me to the hospital. Only after the doctor repeatedly assured him that both the baby and I were healthy did he finally drive me back to his place. It was a secluded villa right in the middle of the city. I thought we were about to start a shamelessly intimate life together, but he had us sleep in separate beds. For several days, he ignored me completely. Had we moved a step forward, or had we just taken a giant step back? Chapter 13. Late at night. I couldn't sleep. I crept over to his room and climbed into his bed. He crossed his arms and shifted to the side, presenting me with a cold, unwelcoming back. I tugged on him a few times to no avail, so I simply clambered right on top of him, afraid of hurting me. He slowly lay flat, racking my brain for any useful tricks I'd ever seen in certain films. I leaned in bit by bit, sticking out my little pink tongue. I licked his Adam's apple. Peter's entire body went rigid in an instant, his eyes shining in the darkness like embers. Feeling shy, I covered his eyes with my hand, then began planting kisses wherever my lips could land. Peter's eyelashes fluttered rapidly against my palm, their trembling growing more frantic by the second. He grabbed my wandering hand, seized me by the shoulders, and spoke in a tight, husky voice. The doctor said it's not possible for now. You'll have to hold out. Do you want it or not? I asked, my voice shaking. I don't. He growled menacingly. I don't believe you, let me see. I reached to pull his pants down. He glowered at me. Can't you at least pretend to be reserved? I've been reserved 4 days. When are you going to make a move? I pouted. Aggrieved. He sighed. I'm worried about hurting you. There's a way to make you feel good without hurting me. Don't you want to hear it? I bit my plump lower lip. Peter's breathing grew ragged again. He brushed my lip with his thumb. His gaze was dark. His voice gravelly. You started this. You don't get to cry and regret it later. I suspected Peter had a hidden switch somewhere inside him. When it's off, he's as cool and aloof as a monk who's sworn off earthly desires. When it's on, his desire erupts like a volcano, scorching, relentless, never-ending. He turned into a creature of the night, submerged in wave after wave of raging lust. Eventually, I shook my head in tears, trying to resist. Gently coaxing me, he pulled me back by the thighs. Don't hide from me, Autumn. Peter's stamina seemed superhuman. We'd gone at it so late into the night. Yet somehow, he still managed to go to work early in the morning. When I woke up, I ate the breakfast he'd prepared while bombarding him with messages. I also changed my username from a motherless child is like a weed to from now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. Stayed up all night having a long talk with someone. Slept in a bit late today. Hope he won't blame me? Peter replied briefly. In a meeting. From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. If he's going to brush me off like this, he might as well not reply at all. Makes me look like a drama queen. And then, sure enough, he didn't reply. From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. My dear brother. You're so cruel. You've got other women to chat with, ones who are cuter, flirt better, and make you happier. From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. Sigh. You must really find me a bother. I guess I'm just not as pretty as those other girls. From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. Done entertaining your other women? Can it be my turn now? From now on, I'm Daddy's daughter. Is it illegal to reply to a message on your end? Right after I sent that last message, my phone rang. It was Assistant Lou. He's my direct supervisor. So I answered respectfully. Hello, Assistant Lou. Is something the matter? Assistant Lou hesitated before speaking in a rigid tone. The boss wanted me to tell you that his phone is currently connected to a projector. He's seen all your messages, but it's not convenient for him to reply. I wanted to bury my head in my bowl of rice on the spot. This was social death of the most public kind. As I was busy trying to curl my toes into the floor in mortification, an unexpected visitor arrived at the house. Peter's mother, Madame Fiona Wong, the chair of Wong Corporation. Chapter 14. Fiona was born into a wealthy family, married into another, and later took charge of that fortune. She radiated the unshakable poise of old money. Even though she was nearly 60, she still carried herself with undeniable grace, which suggested she must have been a great beauty in her youth. She sized me up so casually, yet I felt as if she were dissecting me completely. Feeling uneasy, I fidgeted with my fingers and stood there timidly under her gaze. She spoke slowly. Autumn? Grew up in an orphanage. Has a hearing impairment. I never would have thought it was you. It's me pestering Mr. Wong. I mumbled. She gave a soft laugh. So I've gathered. My son's taste. Such is the subtlety of a true master at words, not a single insult. And yet my self-esteem felt as though it were crushed underfoot. Suddenly, the front door was flung open. Peter, who was supposedly in a meeting, barged in. I looked at him in surprise, then immediately felt a surge of disappointment. Would he take my side? In truth, I had never really known what I meant to Peter from the very beginning. Did he simply have a momentary desire for his daily scene? Pretty little secretary? Or was he merely going along with what was convenient, having sponsored me for so many years? To think he truly loved me, that was an option I didn't dare imagine. Aren't you in a meeting? Fiona asked. Peter took a moment to catch his breath, then answered calmly. I saw on the security feed that someone had entered, so I came home to check. Fiona gave a slight nod. Smiling gently, I dropped by to see Autumn. After all, you've shared a certain fate, be good to her. My eyes immediately brimmed with tears as I bit my lip, though my reddened rims no doubt gave me away. Peter placed a supportive hand on my shoulder and said quietly, "You won't be treated unfairly." Humiliated tears slipped from the corner of my eye, like pearls breaking off a string. Shoulders shaking, I stubbornly wiped away the water clouding my vision. "I'll pack up my things and leave." Yet Peter refused to let me go. He cupped my chin firmly. "Hear me out." He drew me to stand beside him in front of Fiona and spoke with solemn resolve. "Mom, I'm going to marry Autumn." Fiona's brow furrowed as her face darkened. "Do you realize what you're saying?" Peter smiled faintly. "I'm not asking for your approval. I'm letting you know." For a moment, Fiona's refined composure seemed to crack. Her fingers shook as she pointed it at Peter's forehead. "Peter, don't forget who you are. You think your marriage is your own private affair? Everything about you is tied to the Wong family. Do you honestly think the board will allow you to marry a deaf woman?" Peter lowered his head toward me. "Don't listen to this." He reached for my cochlear implant, but I stubbornly covered it with my hand. "I want to hear." With a sigh, he turned back to Fiona. "Then please avoid saying things Autumn wouldn't want to hear." Clasping my hand in his tone resolute, he continued, "Mom, I've worn these shackles since I was 15, given up everything that didn't contribute to the Wong family's goals. I've never resisted. And for 15 years, I've never once slacked off. I didn't let you down. And now, Wong Corporation is flourishing." Fiona fell silent, unable to disagree. "Mom, these 15 years of effort weren't meant to end with me being stripped of the right to choose the person I love. I love Autumn. She's carrying my child now, and I will marry her." Silence. That was the keynote of the night. My silence spoke of a long, anxious wait. Fiona's silence spoke of sudden, overwhelming shock. When she finally recovered, she pointed at my belly in disbelief. "My grandchild is in there?" Chapter 15. I was still in a daze when Fiona leaned in close to my stomach, mouth agape and eyes wide, all sense of the elegant lady of high society abandoned. Uneasy, I looked to Peter for help. He was at a loss as well. "Mom, the baby's only the size of a peanut. It can't hear you." The moment Fiona heard that, she lit up like a chrysanthemum in full bloom. "My precious grandbaby is already as big as a peanut?" I spoke softly. "Madam Chair, it might not be a boy." Fiona grew anxious at once. "Who cares about a boy? Boys are just destined to be workhorses anyway. I want a little girl so I can spoil her rotten." None of us expected her attitude to shift so suddenly. Much later, she told me that she'd spent so many years turning Peter into a success, he'd been under enormous pressure. But she herself had been on pins and needles every step of the way. But once she realized she was going to have a grandchild, her long-buried urge to indulge and dote on a baby took over, completely out of control. Clearly, this mother and son inherited the same streak of intense single-mindedness. At 3 months pregnant, I went in for a prenatal checkup, accompanied by Peter and by Fiona, who insisted on coming along, though Noah was highly skilled. Peter still specifically requested an esteemed female doctor. He mumbled awkwardly, "I don't like the idea of him looking at you." Seeing the ultrasound, where the fetus had already taken on a tiny human form, both mother and son burst into tears. They ended up holding each other and sobbing, leaving both the doctor and me gaping in surprise. After the checkup, Peter suddenly went back into the examination room and locked the door from the inside. When he finally came out, Fiona was determined to find out what he'd asked. Peter firmly refused to tell her. Incensed, Fiona demanded, "What could possibly be off limits to me?" Peter's earlobes were flushed bright red, but he kept his mouth shut. Fiona was so exasperated she took my arm and led me outside, trying to form a united front to freeze Peter out. That evening, after Fiona sweet-talked me into finishing a bowl of bird's nest soup, she pressed her ear against my belly, listening for quite a while, until Peter finally chased her out. I played some music for the baby and prepared to turn out the lights, but Peter kept tossing and turning beside me, restless and fidgety. I asked, exasperated, "Peter, do you have fleas or something?" He flipped over and propped himself above me, his dark eyes shining with an intensity that startled me. Was he possessed? "Autumn," he whispered. "The doctor said, it's okay now." "What's okay?" I asked. Puzzled, he took my hand and placed it on his abs, moving it back and forth. I snatched my hand away as though burned. Stop tempting me to commit a crime. Peter gave a mischievous grin, his voice low and persuasive. Babe, don't you want to? I finally caught on. So that's what you asked the doctor earlier? He just smiled, leaning in slowly as his warm, damp lips enveloped my earlobe, teasing it gently. I was far too sensitive there. My body trembled, curling in on itself. Peter seemed pleased with my reaction. He slid his large hand around my waist, pulling me up. Even at 3 months pregnant, you're still so skinny. I pinched his narrow waist in return, letting out a small sigh. Abstaining all this time was driving me crazy. The feel of his body was enough to make my head spin. I closed my eyes to savor the moment, letting Peter guide me wherever he wanted, like drifting through time and space, blissfully intoxicated. Suddenly, Peter stopped. I opened my eyes, frustrated, and gave him a shove with my foot. He was obviously seconds away from being consumed by desire, yet he forced himself to pause, voice filled with exasperation. Autumn, why did you change your username? I blinked. You mean from now on, I'm Daddy's daughter? He chuckled softly. I just wanted to let everyone know I have someone protecting me now. That's all. No hidden meaning. No hidden meaning? Nose to nose. He rubbed against me, breath hot and swirling. He pulled back a little, then said, Autumn, what do you call me? Husband? He smiled, but didn't move. Daddy? Still no reaction. I flailed anxiously, my nails digging into his shoulders. Well, what is it? His grin grew wider, and his tone turned coaxing. Be good, Autumn. Think carefully. There was a sly gleam in his gaze, as though he had some secret mischief in mind. Finally, I realized what he wanted. Looping my arms around his neck, I leaned close and whispered that mortifying little word in his ear. Peter's body instantly went taut, drawn like a bowstring, brimming with power that nearly crushed me. This man was a total degenerate. How had I ever believed he was some refined, honorable gentleman? Chapter 16. Our wedding was grand, on a scale seldom seen before. Thanks to Fiona, I didn't have to worry about a thing, leaving me free to relax. Every important figure in the city showed up, while Peter busied himself entertaining guests. Fiona stayed with me in the back for makeup and to chat with a few of the other ladies. My daughter-in-law isn't feeling well, so she won't be standing to greet everyone. Oh, you understand, don't you? Ha ha ha. Just look at my good fortune. Such a beautiful daughter-in-law. My granddaughter's going to be gorgeous for sure. Ha 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 ha. Out front, Jeremy arrived with his parents. The moment Peter saw him, the delighted glow in his eyes vanished, replaced by a frosty glare. I don't recall inviting the esteemed young master, Peter said icily. Peter isn't someone who acts rashly. He genuinely dislikes Jeremy. He once told me, I don't mind if Jeremy courts you under my name, but he managed to win you over only to take you for granted. That's something I can't forgive. Sensing the tension, Assistant Lou gave me a call. Madam, Jeremy's family has arrived. Put Peter on the phone. I said, hello, came Peter's muffled voice. Clearly, he was displeased. They're already here. I reminded him, we can't just throw them out. I didn't reserve any seats for him, Peter retorted, sounding all too righteous. Then let him sit at the kids' table, I suggested. All right, Peter agreed, somewhat grudgingly, only to use the opportunity to name his own condition. But you'll have to make it up to me tonight. A prickle went through my scalp. Just imagining that man with his endless appetite made my back ache and my head spin. Peter, is it too late for me to run from this wedding? I moaned. He gave a light laugh. Mrs. Wong, you belong to me for the rest of your life. I suggest you save your strength, no point wasting it.